Hi everyone, this is part 2 of this lovely little project we're doing out of scraps. Now the theme has been a very natural, organic looking piece. We have some fabrics that sort of represent earth and leaves, and there's even something there that's like lichens, all different kinds of things that have got that lovely organic feel to them. So we'll continue on from part 1. So in part 1 we really got involved in using our scraps and composition of our project. And in part 2 here we're really heavily into the stitching at this stage, and then we'll end with making our project into something special. There we go, done. And then I might just come over again there, and then I'm going to come up here and finish doing that leaf, and I've really gotten a lot of that tacked down. Only we skipped the tacking and we went straight to the fun stuff. Careful of this one. Find a hole through that lace. There. And back in that way. You know, so we quite often, you know, go religiously around the patches into squares, and we can do that. We can do that now, you know, but we can also just do a motif on top, and that's quite effective too. There we go. Now let me show you another cheat. I'm full of cheats. So perhaps you did this, you wanted to end here and you now don't have enough to end off. What are you going to do? Well, you could do a lot of things. You can use a smaller needle for a start, or you could maybe do the stitch first, you know, with the needle, and then put this tiny little tag end of thread through it, and you can do that twice. So that's one thing. You see what I mean? And now, because I can't get it to go in again, but I can get the needle in, so I'll just finish off by doing that a second time and we're done. Don't know about you, I really don't. I really want to do something with it. I don't want to just cut it off, but what could it be? Could do a nice little twirly. It's like roots, isn't it, or something? I don't know. What happens if we pull it apart a bit? Does it suggest itself into something else? Anyway, I like the experimentation. So I am going to finish this, but I thought, let's just think about what you could do with it. I could cover a nice book, a nice journal. That's really nice. It's inspiring when you want to write messages down, or poetry or art, what have you. There we go, book cover. Just looking around me, here's a box. How about if I wanted it as a special lid of a box? You know, you could use ordinary fabric to cover a box and have this for your lid. You keep your special thing. That might be where you're keeping your fabric scraps or something like that. Yes. But what would I want to do now? Well, I would want to finish off. I could bring in some of this. I can't tell whether that's a yellowy green or a yellow, but it's nice. So we're going to stick with our organic kind of theme, and we're going to add some stitching, some threads. What have we got here? Some nice yarn, some nice bobbly yarn, and just whatever I think, whatever I like at the time. So how about we couch that on? That would look nice. How about we just sort of have it going in from one side and meandering through and out the other? I like that kind of thing. Put 2 lots in if you want. Nah, 1 was plenty. So I'm just going to start, and first thing I'm going to do is, I think, just hold that down, and to couch on this thread, this yarn. So you would go up one side and from the bottom over the yarn and back down through all those layers into the back. Then you would travel underneath a little way, and you would go up again and over the yarn and down again, and eventually, like a little ladder, you are holding it all down. Now I've just grabbed another yarn. That would be nice too. Twisted would be really nice. But there's so many things that could go here, so can't put it all on. But I've got some stranded cotton now, some nice orange colour, and I'm just doing a couple of stitches on top of each other to knot it at the back, and then I'm bringing it through, and here on this hand-dyed lace I've got, this was a tablecloth, and it's got this repetitive pattern of a little kind of flower, a little crocheted flower. So just to accentuate that and stitch it down at the same time, I'm just doing a few little stitches here that are called a detached chain. Now I do have videos about that if you're interested to see. It's a little leaf kind of shape, a little teardrop shape, a little petal shape. It works well in that instance. Look at all these other threads I've grabbed now. Really wanting to get into the embroidery. That's a nice shiny one. We've got some greens, some oranges, some yellows. So we'll grab that green out, I think. You can see earlier I did these lovely leaf motifs, instead of doing the straight lines, which I'm really, admittedly, not that big a fan of, probably not that good at doing straight lines. So I let the curves work for me, and in this instance I did a nice leaf shape motif, and it held down shapes at the same time as it was making a decorative line. It was really quite good. So I've got some hand-dyed yarn here. It's a much thicker one. I'm going to use a much more robust needle with a big eye to get it through. And I'm thinking about just doing some meandering lines here. I had that those twisted bits that were hanging off that what's the colour? Earthy colour, goldy colour. Yeah, so maybe I'll couch some of those loose bits down, and out the side there. I think I said at one stage it looked a bit like roots, so let's call it roots, and do some lines out. But at the same time, like I say, make sure it's holding something down. So that's another little bit. I'm just discovering bits that I haven't attached yet that I'll need to pop something on. Now, if you're comfortable with straight lines, you go straight ahead. But I do quite like this because it's it's earthy and like I say, organic looking. I'm quite happy to let it sort of grow outside the edges. Just grabbing some more, a different kind of orange this time, and and completing that little flower around that center. It's doing a good job of holding it down whilst it's brightening up that brown expanse. It's adding a little something to keep our interest. Now, I think you saw earlier I had some lovely shiny buttermilk kind of lemony yellow color, and now I'm making sure I'm holding down the edge of that lace and the edge of that orange piece underneath, but I'm also doing little stitches, little crosses or little seed stitches. Can you see it there? Yeah. And there's the flower that we added in. Leaf shapes. And that's where I couch that green piece down. So what I'm looking at now is, I think I showed you in episode 1 how I'd found this lovely bit of pine needles, and I thought, oh, I might use it. And that thing there is actually a decorative kind of paperclip. And I thought, okay, why don't I use both there? It's sort of it's a jazzy thing. It's got some shine to it. That might be good. Might hold it down at the same time. And now I'm just couching. I've just over one, down to the back, exactly like I did, but I'm doing this one a little bit closer together because I want to make sure it really does hold. I could do all 3 together, or I can do 2 at a time of those strands of the pine needles, just mixing it up a little bit. And then when I get further down, I'll make sure that I also have a few stitches in holding down that lovely swirly gold paper clip that I had put in, because I think that's really quite a feature. Especially notice how I put it on that brown piece of fabric that, although it was beautifully textural, doesn't really have any impact. So there, you can see what's happening there. Oh, you got a good flash then of that of the gold in that. So continuing down, look at it now, you can see really is quite pretty. All those elements work really well together. So I continue down and I couch right to the end of that those pine needles. Make sure it's really nicely attached. You can see how I go up one side, I go up and over and down, and then I travel underneath a little bit further away, and I do the same thing. Couching is so useful. You can get all kinds of things down when you do some couching. I'm quite glad I got that in there, because I've decided I'm going to be doing this book cover, this little journal, and I want it to be something that's, inspires me to do some sort of natural art. Right now I'm using that same thread and I'm just going back and I am doing a few as if the pine needles spread out a little bit. So I'm just doing single lines out, and they're sort of looking as if it was more pine needles. And now I'm looking back at the book. Okay, so I've done enough, I think, and let's just see. Are we going to need any more? Is it big enough to go around? We'd need a little lip of fabric to go around the edge. Got a problem there. So at the bottom, I grab another piece of fabric, and I'm just going to pop it under that bit of gauzy linen, and I'll just pop a few lines in there to attach it as well. In the meantime, let's have a look at some of these close-ups of these lovely stitches. A bit of an amalgamation, but it's turning it all into one solid cloth where we've joined all these lovely bits and pieces together. It really does look like something that's growing. Lovely clay colours. It's just very nice. So I think that's us about caught up. Let's get on to the next stage. But remember, have fun, whatever you do. Right, here we go. So, I don't know whether I've finished all of the things that I wanted to do on there. You could go forever. I can stitch some of this down. You know, I can do a lot of things to tidy that up. But let's get round to the actual book covering. So here's my book. Nice pages. But this blue really doesn't suit. So there's a few ways that you could do this, but today we're going to be looking at just gluing. Now I'll show you how soon, but you look at your size. I've got enough now to go over that edge. I extended this piece down so I had enough here, and that's what we need, if you can see here. So what we will do is that we'll glue, pulling it tight, and just like that. It has to go just enough so that later we can use another piece of cardboard or the sheet or something over it, and you'll have this edge here. So that's the concept anyway. But what you do need to start with, whether you did that or whether you sewed it as an envelope and then put the whole thing over, either way, what you need is something that's the right size. So you can see here it's not. I need something else for the back, basically. So that's what I'll do now. I'm going to attach it in here underneath my raggedy edge there, just so that it flows onto it, you know what I mean? Alright, so let me just find something suitable. Okay, I've grabbed a bit of linen, and you know, it's got a little bit of, it's a little bit see-through, and I'm thinking, well, what I'd probably do is I would add this one on like that. See how it blends beautifully. Nice. Make these two into one strip of fabric, and then you know, it may be better to just use a little bit of iron-on or something underneath if I'm worried about this colour coming through, or if I want to stiffen it. We'll work that out as we go. Okay, let's just have a look at this though. So this is the front, that's the back. Picture which side it has to go on. The front has to go on to the right hand side. If it's like this, right hand side, and that will flap over onto the back. Flap over onto the back. So put the book away. This is where it's going. I can either leave that bit of calico I started on showing, or I can just do that, fold it under. Quite like that little ratty edge there. Don't these things grow on me? I start off with a small project and it ends up into something quite big. Can't help it. Right, so I'm just going to pop a couple of pins there. And it doesn't matter how you do this. So we get these lines, we could continue some of these lines out. Let's do that. That would be quite pretty. Let's do that. I did like this variegated thread. So let's start here. All right. So the idea is to attach it. Let's go like this. You could just use your sewing machine if you've got a sewing machine. And see how we're using this thread to join them. Looks quite nice, really. Now I'm going to have to use this book because it's turned out so pretty. So I'll go down once and then I'll come up again, doing a wavy kind of line to make sure that I've attached it. Sometimes I'll attach out here where I've got it's gone over the edge. You could of course make that nice and tidy and have a straight line, but just thought, seeing though it's there, why don't I go with it? I imagine over time this will change, you know. It's very organic anyway, isn't it? So, you know, bits will become more frayed. I'll add more bits. Now I'm going to go back up again, just to make sure that I have, you know, gotten it in several places. It's nice and attached. This time I'm going to go, sometimes I'm going to go right out over the edge. So we've got this extending out over the edge now, making sure we've gotten in some of our ratty bits and also into the meat of it. If we look at the other side, you can see. Anyway, so here's our book. Our book will be like this, and then it will go around the edge. And we've got something nice on the spine now, you see. So you can take that as far as you like. It's just an idea, extending out. I quite like the raggedy bits that will poke out sometimes. So this is where you sort of think, how big does it need to be? And I'm just going to go like this. Right, let's see. How can we do this? Don't want to lose too much of this. It makes quite a nice edge there, I think, like that. Right, so that is where I would start. I would look here and I would say, okay, we've got loads of space, and I would just start on this edge here. And I would find some glue that's appropriate. I mean, maybe you don't even need glue, who knows? Maybe you could try it with just a really good tape and tape it down. So plenty of things would work. I'm going to use a little bit of Mod Podge glue because I know that it's acceptable for using on fabric and paper. But, you know, PVA, craft glue, lots of things would work. I've just turned that edge over and I've pressed it down. Now I'm just saying you could use something, a little bit of plastic there would mean that it's not going to stick when I close this whilst it's drying, and you could use something like that, like bulldog clips or pegs or something, paper clips to hold it like that. But for the tops and bottoms you'll need to pop in this little slit, this little slice. It's just so that where it goes, where the spine is, you can turn it over onto that cover and use that little bit left in the middle to poke into the spine. I'll show you in a moment. So here we go, we've gone around all those sides, and now we're going to do the same here. See how I've left that little tiny bit? Always make sure that there is enough space, that you check that it can easily turn over, because sometimes you can pull it too tight and then when you try and close it again, it won't close. Now you can see here where I've left that little bit that hasn't turned over on the front and the back covers, And here I'm just going to add a little bit of glue. I'm going to poke it in using something, you know, like a toothpick or something that's just going to work. And that's folded in that little bit neatly. And there's our book. Well, the last thing that you would have to do is, you've got all this glued, and just tidy that up with a piece of cardboard or something, and you just glue that one in there like that, so that when you open it up you've got something pretty to look at, you know, and then you're free to start your diary or whatever it is, you know. So that's not too bad. And I mean, we've purposely made it ratty. You could make it nice if you wanted to, but you know, I quite like that rough and ready look. I hope you do too. So there we are. We've made something that's not just a picture, but something useful. So a book cover, a journal, an art journal, somewhere to keep your poetry, somewhere to leave your ideas, or the beginning of your brag book. I hope you've enjoyed watching with me. If you have, don't forget to press like and subscribe, and all my details are below. Thank you for watching.